Usually when you think about uncovering some sort of historical or digital artifact, you imagine um, pulling a message in a bottle out of the ocean.
Right, yeah, like finding this sprawling, desperate story written on a piece of weathered parchment or something.
Exactly. Or maybe a treasure map with a giant red X on it. We just naturally expect the artifact itself to contain the entire narrative.
Yeah, we assume the story is right there in the ink, like the paper is the final destination.
But imagine pulling the cork out of that bottle, unrolling the paper, and finding literally nothing but a list of 9 raw GPS coordinates.
Oh, wow.
Right. And just a single sentence that says, go to these spots for the treasure. It shifts the entire experience. You don't actually possess the treasure. You just hold the itinerary.
It's pure instruction. And that distinction, I mean, it completely reframes how we have to look at today's material.
It really does. So welcome back. Today, we have something completely different for you. The mission of our deep dive is the same. We want to save you time and extract the most valuable insights, but the source material itself is shockingly minimal.
Yeah, we definitely don't have a massive textbook today.
No, not at all. We don't have a sprawling investigative report or a stack of academic journals. We have a single text file.
Twin text file.
Just one. The title is balloonandlinkler.txt, which translates from Turkish to found links. And inside this file, there is no essay.
No, none.
There's no long-winded explanation or philosophical preamble. There's just one directive in Turkish translating to, the following links are this week's astrology reviews. Please reference the contents on these sites.
Followed by exactly 9 distinct YouTube video URLs.
That's the entirety of it. 9 URLs.
Yeah.
And even without clicking a single one of those links, because remember, we are just analyzing the raw text file itself today, this document acts as a fascinating lens into how digital guidance is curated, distributed, and ultimately consumed by you.
It forces you to really consider the ecosystem behind the instruction. Because someone didn't just, stumble upon 9 videos. They manually compiled them.
Right.
They packaged them, and they issued a directive on exactly how to use them.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there's a really specific choice of words here that stands out to me.
Which part?
The phrase, "The following links are this week's astrology reviews. Please reference the contents on these sites." The instruction is so direct, but it's remarkably hands-off.
Yeah, it really is.
So the author of this file isn't giving us the actual reviews. They're acting entirely as a traffic cop, pointing us elsewhere to use as a, quote, reference. What does this tell us about the nature of curation and how people actually seek guidance?
Well, I think it points to a massive shift in the nature of modern authority. Historically, authority was about holding the knowledge yourself and dispensing it.
Yeah.
If you were the astrologer, you wrote the column, you cast the chart, you delivered the prophecy directly. The power was in the creation of the content.
But that's changed.
Completely. In the digital age, where information is infinite and just totally overwhelming, authority has shifted from creation to curation.
So the value isn't in making new content. The value is in the filter.
Exactly. The person who compiled this text file is functioning as a trusted sieve. They aren't demanding you listen to their own voice. They are signaling that they have surveyed the incredibly noisy landscape of the internet, waded through thousands of potential videos, and determined that these 9 specific locations are the ones worthy of your time.
It's an aggressive form of managing information overload, and the subject matter they are filtering is crucial to understand, too.
Right, the astrology aspect.
Yeah, because the directive specifically notes this week's reviews. Notice that time frame. Astrology in this context isn't being treated as a static one-off personality profile where you, read a book once to figure out why you're stubborn.
No, it's an ongoing, time-sensitive navigational tool.
Right.
A weekly review implies a constant, cyclical need for orientation. The user receiving this file expects the circumstances of their life to shift every 7 days, requiring a brand new set of coordinates to navigate that shift.
I keep coming back to this analogy in my head. This text file operates exactly like a doctor's prescription pad.
Oh, how so? Walk through the mechanics of that.
Well, when a doctor writes you a prescription, that tiny piece of paper isn't the medicine.
Right. Swallowing the paper won't cure you.
Exactly. It's just a highly specific set of instructions handed down by an authority figure telling you exactly where to go.
To the pharmacy.
Right, the pharmacy. To obtain the specific remedy you need for the immediate future. This text file is a digital prescription. It's saying, you need guidance to get through this week. I am prescribing you these 9 videos. Take as directed.
That framing really highlights the intentionality behind the file. The text file is the referral.
Exactly.
And if the text file is the referral, the next logical step is to examine the pharmacy we are being sent to.
Yes, let's look at the actual links, because the medium chosen here is remarkable uniform. Looking at the raw list, every single one of the 9 URLs begins the exact same way.
They're all YouTube links, right?
Yep, every single one is youtube.com/EV, followed by the unique video ID. There isn't a single link to a written blog post.
Wow.
There are no links to a Substack newsletter, no audio-only podcast feeds. Every single prescribed source is specifically video content.
Which is actually a highly inefficient way to consume complex information if you think about it purely in terms of data transfer.
Totally. Text is infinitely faster.
Right, you can skim a written astrology column in 30 seconds. You can use a search function to find the exact paragraph relevant to you. Video strips away that control. It locks you into the creator's pacing. It demands a significant investment of your time.
I want to read a couple of these exact video IDs just to emphasize how strange they look when stripped of their context.
Go for it.
So we have one ending in LYZ4HEJQDU. Another is TKBJJ2ETU. Just totally meaningless out of context. Right. When you remove the bright, carefully designed thumbnail and you take away the clickbait title, you are left with this cryptic string of alphanumeric soup.
It's the raw machine language of the internet infrastructure.
And here's where it gets really interesting. There's a mechanical layer to this that I think we need to look at. When you extract a raw URL and drop it into a plain text document, you are fundamentally subverting how the platform is designed to operate.
Oh, absolutely. When you're on a platform like YouTube, you don't even realize how much of the environment is actively working to keep you inside its ecosystem.
The sidebar is algorithmically suggesting what to watch next based on your psychology.
Right. The comment section is dictating the community consensus. The autoplay feature is just constantly queuing up the next hit of dopamine.
The platform functions like a casino.
Yeah, exactly. There are no clocks on the wall, and the exits are hard to find. The goal is prolonged engagement.
Right. So by ripping these 9 specific URLs out of that casino and dropping them into a sterile blank text file, the curator is performing an act of algorithmic rebellion.
That's a great way to put it.
They're saying, do not trust the platform's sidebar to tell you what to watch next. Trust my list. They have isolated the transmission from the noise of the platform.
They've created a closed loop of information.
Yes.
But we still have to answer why video was the exclusive choice for this closed loop. And I think the psychological mechanism at play here is fascinating.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when dealing with fields that require highly nuanced interpretation, or fields that rely heavily on a sense of personal connection, like weekly astrological forecasting, the visual and vocal presence of the guide becomes paramount.
Because the information being delivered is entirely subjective.
Exactly. Look, if I need to teach you how to change a tire, a bulleted text list works perfectly fine. The mechanics of the tire do the heavy lifting. The instructions are objective.
Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty.
Right. But if I am predicting the emotional tenor of your upcoming week or offering advice on how to handle interpersonal conflict based on planetary alignments, raw text often fails to build the necessary trust.
You need to evaluate the messenger.
Yes. You need to see my facial expressions. You need to hear the empathy or the warning in the cadence of my voice. Video provides that in a way text just can't.
You're relying on parasocial trust.
Exactly. The psychological phenomenon where a viewer feels a deep, authentic connection to a media figure, even though the relationship is entirely one-sided.
It mimics a one-on-one consultation.
Right. Reading a horoscope in a newspaper is a cold, detached, anonymous experience. Watching a human being look directly into a camera lens and speak to you is totally different.
So the curator of this text file isn't just pointing the user to raw data. They are prescribing 9 specific human relationships. They're saying, here are 9 distinct guides you can look in the eye and trust this week.
But that raises a really important point. If video creates this deep parasocial trust, what happens when a user is suddenly confronted with 9 different trusted faces?
Yeah, that brings us to the sheer volume of links in this file. 9 distinct video links for a single week's review.
That's a lot.
Let's really think about the cognitive load of that. If the average video is even just 10-15 minutes long, that is a massive time commitment. But more importantly, isn't that inherently counterproductive to the goal of finding guidance?
How do you mean?
Well, if I want a quick answer to a problem, I ask one expert I trust. If someone has 9 different videos for the exact same week, doesn't that inherently guarantee conflicting viewpoints?
Oh, for sure.
If I ask 9 different people to look at the exact same complex system, whether that's the economy or a political debate or the astrological sky, they're inevitably going to come up with 9 slightly different interpretations.
Yeah.
So how does a listener avoid feeling totally overwhelmed by info overload? Forcing a user to navigate 9 competing perspectives sounds like the exact opposite of what we want. Feels like the opposite of effective curation.
I get why you'd say that. It seems counterintuitive if you view curation as the act of providing a single monolithic answer.
Right.
But this text file reflects a highly sophisticated, very modern research habit. It's the practice of triangulating truth.
Triangulating truth. I understand triangulation in terms of GPS coordinates, using multiple cell towers to pinpoint a phone's exact location by finding where the signals intersect.
Exactly.
How does that translate to watching 9 different YouTube videos about your week?
It works on the exact same mechanical principle. By instructing the user to reference the contents on these sites, plural, the curator is explicitly acknowledging that no single video contains the absolute flawless truth.
Oh, interesting.
Subjective interpretation is inherently prone to individual bias. The user is being asked to watch all 9 and mentally map the overlapping Venn diagram of advice.
So if video number 1 warns of a stressful week for communication, and video number 4 mentions a high likelihood of misunderstandings, and video 7 advises double-checking your emails.
Suddenly, that specific theme is no longer just one creator's opinion. It becomes an aggregated data point.
Yeah.
It holds serious weight.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Conversely, if video number 2 makes a wild prediction about winning the lottery, and none of the other 8 videos mention finances at all, the user knows they can safely discard that prediction as an outlier.
You are actively filtering the noise to find the signal.
Exactly.
But the mental mechanics of that are fascinating. The person receiving this file cannot be a passive consumer. They can't just sit back and let one person tell them what to do.
No, they have to become an active investigator.
They're holding 9 different subjective narratives in their heads simultaneously and cross-referencing them to find an objective baseline.
Which represents a fundamental shift in modern epistemology, basically, how we understand what is true.
Right.
In the past, we relied on a single trusted anchor, the evening news anchor, the singular newspaper of record, the one local astrologer. Today, trust is crowdsourced.
Truth isn't handed down from a single mountain peak anymore.
No, it is built from the ground up through consensus.
It's the difference between reading a traditional encyclopedia and reading Wikipedia. The validity comes from the aggregate.
Exactly. And this reframes the entire text file for us. When we first looked at it, it seemed like a lazy way to share information, just dumping a bunch of URLs into a document.
Yeah, totally.
But it is actually a demanding, rigorous toolkit. It's a map providing 9 different routes to the same destination, and the user is expected to walk all of them to truly understand the terrain.
Which perfectly illustrates why navigating modern information is so exhausting, but also so necessary. And it brings us directly to why we approach these deep dives the way we do for you.
Definitely.
Because your core goal is efficient learning. You want the deep understanding of a topic without getting buried in the avalanche of raw data.
And what this minimal Turkish text file proves is that achieving true understanding, whether you were trying to parse a complex scientific breakthrough, navigate a corporate strategy, or just prepare for the psychological energy of your week, it almost always requires navigating multiple perspectives.
You just cannot rely on a single vantage point if you want an accurate picture of reality. You have to triangulate.
You really do.
You have to do the work of finding where the sources agree and where they critically diverge. We just happen to do the heavy lifting of that triangulation for you, condensing those metaphorical 9 videos into one clear analysis.
It leaves us with a compelling lens through which to view our own daily digital habits.
Oh, where are you taking this?
Well, I'm going to leave you with a final question to consider as you go about your week.
Okay.
The next time you want to understand a highly complex subjective topic, maybe a new piece of technology, a geopolitical event, or even just the cultural conversation of the moment, ask yourself something.
What's that?
Would you rather have one perfectly polished summary handed to you by a single unquestioned authority? Or would you rather have 9 cryptic links pointing to 9 different voices, forcing you to do the messy, complicated work of synthesis? Which one of those approaches actually gives you a clearer picture of the truth?
Wow. Does the friction of having to synthesize the information actually make the knowledge more real?
That's the question.
That is a fantastic question to sit with. We started today with a seemingly empty text file, a brief instruction, and a list of raw URLs stripped of all context, just the absolute bare bones of the internet.
Yeah, the digital skeleton.
Right, and it opened up a massive exploration into the mechanisms of digital curation, why we crave the human face of video to bypass algorithmic traps, and the profound modern survival skill of triangulating multiple viewpoints to find the signal in the noise.
It proves that even a list of raw coordinates can reveal a vast landscape if you just understand how to read the map.
So well said. Thank you for joining us to unpack this today. Keep seeking out those moments of discovery, keep questioning the underlying mechanisms of your sources, and most importantly, keep triangulating your truth. We'll be right here waiting to dive into the next stack of sources with you. Take care.